Happiness. Everybody on earth wants to be happy.
Right.
But how many people are actually happy?
Right, that's the issue, that there's so much unhappiness in the world. Happiness is so elusive, it seems, to so many different people. And you know what people do? They drown out their unhappiness with entertainment. We're living in an age of addiction. And addiction is not just restricted to alcohol or drugs, but entertainment for people to have fun. And that way they take their minds off their unhappiness. So I think what we have to find explanations for is, why are people so unhappy? And then how do you become happy? How do you reach that happiness?
And not just instant gratification, but something that's sustainable and permanent.
Right, so we talk about the pursuit of happiness. That's in our Declaration of Independence. I think the pursuit of happiness is one of the reasons why we don't have happiness, because people are obsessed with the pursuit and have no idea of what true happiness really is.
So, like they say, every time you see another best-selling book, it's 10 Secrets to Happiness, it's not going to work. That's why they keep being bestsellers. Because if they finally had one that worked. So you think there's a slam dunk formula?
I think when we go to Jewish sources, the Torah sources, we find why people are unhappy and what is the recipe for happiness. First of all, I just realized that the Talmud tells us that there are 10 words for happiness in Hebrew. So that means happiness was a very major topic in Jewish life.
Like the Eskimos have 70 names for snow.
Snow, right.
When you're intimate with it, you have
we
many
have
names.
10 words for happiness. There's not even one word for fun in Hebrew. The modern Israelis borrowed a word from Arabic, kef, for fun. But it's not a Hebrew word. It doesn't exist.
Schok or tzchak?
Schok is laughter.
Okay.
It's laughter. Which is another expression of happiness, but laughter is not a same thing as fun. Fun is a diversion from happiness. It's not that fun is a bad thing in and of itself. People sometimes need to drown out their misery temporarily, so they can get their footing and work and towards true happiness. But when fun becomes the goal, and entertainment becomes it's an obsession. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people have to have how many hundreds of channels on their TV. They have to watch every movie. They have to constantly have the television on, or now it's the internet. And this is detracting from true happiness.
Yeah, well, I find dealing with people, you always want to look at, to try to get to the root core of happiness. You look at where is it natural. Look, children.
Right.
Children are born happy. Unfortunately, sometimes, but it's an anomaly. But a child is naturally happy.
Right. When a child is happy, you don't ask, why are you happy? When an adult is happy with a smile on his face, there's something wrong with this guy. Why is this person smiling so much?
So I always say, just starting on a very simple level. And a child, it's not because the child has all the options, like you said, every channel and every menu and every recipe on earth. It's because the child is comfortable in his own skin or her own skin, and it just knows where I am right now is where I should be. And it's not, like you said, the pursuit of happiness. It's a state of being rather than an action. Many people think, if I do this, I'll become happy. Right. And you find the really happy people are just not, that's who they are. Right. You don't have to say I'm a happy person. The person is content, comfortable in their own skin, a certain inner confidence.
Yeah, I think that the reason why children are naturally happy, I think there are actually 3 reasons for it. Number one, happiness is actually the default position of a human being. It should be the default position. That a person should be naturally happy, because a person has a soul, which is a part of God, and God is identified with joy, which is something that needs to be explained, of course. So a child has this default position of being happiness and didn't become an adult yet where that default position is covered up. Secondly, a child is not self-conscious. A child doesn't think of himself. It's just a natural being, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And thirdly, a child is sinless. The Talmud talks about how the breath of a child who studies Torah sustains the world. So one of the rabbis said, what about, are we chopped liver? What about our Torah study? And the other one says, but the child's breath is sinless. So a child doesn't have the things that cover up true happiness. And therefore the child is naturally in a state of happiness. Child, I think they say, laughs about 300 to 400 times a day. Adults between 10 and 15 times a day, if even that.
Yeah. Well, I would, taking from there, I would add also the word security. People are secure with themselves and not looking for that affirmation or I want to be like somebody else. Once you have, in other words, you're generating from within your own certain self confidence and self-esteem is a critical thing. What you were saying, I think the people who seek fun or entertainment or are numbing themselves or escaping, is they're not secure with themselves. So they say, oh, if I did this, I'll be happy. If I traveled here, I'd be happy. If I smoked this, if I did that. And of course, the advertising world just feeds that. You do this and you'll be, look at this happy looking guy. You want to be like that? Smoke a cigar,
People think they have needs and they have to satisfy those needs. That'll make them happy. But as soon as they satisfy those needs, they discover they have more needs.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to give a recipe to reverse that, there's a story of one of the great Hasidic masters, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe. One of his followers came to him with a whole list of things that he needs. I need this and I need that, and whatever was health and sustenance. And the Alter Rebbe says, you give me a whole list of things, what you need, but why you're needed, you fail to mention.
Right.
The Chassid fainted. When he was revived, it changed his whole life. If people realize that they're needed, because that's something that if you ask the average person, why are you needed? Could the world get along without your existence? Most people couldn't give a good answer. And that's why they're not happy. If a person would just focus on, I'm a purposeful creation. God created me with a purpose, and I'm needed. And if I'm needed, that means there's value to my life. So I'm happy.
That's what goes back to the soul. I think at the end of the day, if you're a body-minded person and everything's materialistic, materialism by definition is insecure because nothing lasts. Whereas purpose and meaning and soulfulness and the fact that you were put here with a very deliberate, absolute reason, you're indispensable,
right,
gives you that. At the end of the day, you cannot really permanently be happy if you don't have something permanent to hold on to. If you're like at sea and there's a storm and you're just being thrust about, you no way that you can feel secure. When you have something to hold on to, what you're saying, purpose, meaning, divine purpose. And ironically, paradoxically, that's what people think. They think, if I take more, I become happier. Right. The truth is when you give more. Right. Service. There's no question about it, but it goes against, it's counterintuitive. People think, what do you mean? If I'm giving up my time and serving, I don't have time to be happy. And it's the exact opposite. Right. I mean, wherever you see the wisdom of the sages, Judaism, of course, is an example, thousands of years. It always comes down to, you're unhappy, go help somebody. It never says you're not happy, go find something that will make you happy. Go do something that will serve, that will help. You see it all the time, absolutely.
People wish each other happy birthday. They don't even realize what they're saying. What's the happiness of the birthday? The truth is, I don't know who is the first author of this. I think it was Nachman of Breslov, a great Hasidic master, who said that the day that you're born is the day that God says, this world cannot exist without you. That's why it's happy birthday, because you realize that the world needs you. We're needed. And a person gets the tremendous sense of fulfillment when they know that they're needed.
Unfortunately, many children growing up in homes of parents that, I would say, invalidated them and made them feel demoralizing them. So you turn into an adult and you feel like, I never made my parents happy and I'm not going to make people happy. So what we do is we distract ourselves. So how does one, that's the challenge, how does one, if someone grew up in an environment where they were told, God needs you, God created you, every morning you say Moda'ani, which is that prayer, thank you for giving me, returning my soul to me, giving me purpose. But what about when you get into a situation where you're not, that was not your environment, that was not the message. The message was, you're only going to make us happy if you make a lot of money, or if you'll be a doctor or a lawyer, or you're going to perform well. Right. And like contending with that type of materialistic form of happiness, to find spiritual happiness, is a real challenge because it's not neutral. Every second of the day, people are telling you, please me and you'll be happier, make more money, you'll be happier.
You see, it's interesting. You're saying that when people feel worthless, they have no purpose, they're not happy. But the flip side of that is that people's egos cause them not to be happy. A person who has an inflated ego thinks that the whole world is there for him or her, and that they don't have enough. They're entitled to everything. That's why gratitude and happiness go hand in hand. Who's a grateful person? A happy person. Who's a happy person? Who's a grateful person? Why is a person an ingrate? Because they feel, I'm entitled to that. You didn't do me a favor. You owed it to me. God owes me everything. I'm so great. I'm so wonderful. So you're never grateful. If you have your ego is in check, then wow, I didn't deserve this. I'm so thrilled that someone decided to give this to me. And when Adam and Eve partook of the forbidden fruit, which by the way wasn't an apple, that's the myth, but whatever it was, they ate of the forbidden fruit. And what did Adam do after that? That was the first real sin. Because Adam and Eve's eating of the fruit, that was all orchestrated. God made it almost impossible for them not to do it, which is another subject for another time. But right after, when God confronts Adam, what does he do? He says, it's not my fault. It's the woman you gave me. It's her fault because you gave me this person. Instead of saying to God, thank you, giving me a helpmate, giving me a spouse, giving me a partner in life, he was ungrateful. And that happened when he became self-conscious. That goes back to what we said before, that when a person is self-conscious and their focus is always on their own needs and their own wants, they're going to be very unhappy and ungrateful. And at a wedding ceremony, we have one of the blessings, we ask God to bring joy to the bride and bridegroom the way that Adam and Eve were given joy in the Garden of Eden before the sin. Before the sin, they were the most joyous people, the most happy people. The sin made them miserable because they became self-conscious. And when your focus is on your ego, then you're not going to be happy.
There's a powerful discourse by, you mentioned before, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, founder of Chabad, where he talks about how true happiness goes hand in hand with humility. If you don't have humility, you can't be truly happy. And most people don't think of it that way. They think of humility as for the downtrodden, for the people who are like all very withdrawn. And happiness is, you're expansive and you're aggressive and so on, which of course goes back to the definition of happiness, that when the person is humble, which means humble in their understanding of their role in this world, instead of feeling a sense of entitlement, me, and it's more like you, I'm here to give, I'm here to serve. That humility is always, you see any person, and I challenge anyone to go out there, find a happy person, a truly happy person. You'll see it has nothing to do with how wealthy or because you have wealthy people that are miserable people, you have poor people that are very happy. It has nothing to do with their circumstance. It has to do with their attitude. And the attitude is one of a sense of modesty, humility. I answer to a higher truth, a higher reality. The people, as soon as the focus is not on themselves, that's the direct proportion to that is always going to be a more long-term happiness.
I heard a story that someone wrote a letter to our Rabbi with all their problems and their misery and their sadness and their depression and everything. And the Rebbe's answer was he just took every time this person wrote the word I, which was repeated over and over, and the Rebbe circled it. And that was the answer.
Yeah.
You take the focus off the I, then all those issues will be either disappear or you'll be able to accommodate them into your life. It won't distract you. It won't deter you from living a full life.